Hi, my name is Rob Panoff, and this is the feature video for the interactive table for meetings in the multi-user canvas Epic. My product owner is Hadi Alfar, my mentor is Masoud Sadhidi. Okay, so this is our project, Interactive Meeting Space. I'll be going over a lot of the shared notepad in this video and talk about some of the features, especially as they go on with meetings. All right, so first and foremost, let me bring up another instance of this and show you. As you can see, there is a synchronous with the shared notepad. As you draw, it draws on other screens, and it's not just this was my computer. I could hook it up with any kind of device, and it would be showing the same thing. So one of the neat thing about this is the meeting granularity, which is what we'll be going over primarily in this meeting, in this talk. This meeting granularity allows us to save images to a meeting folder and then, which is right here, then upload it. These are from our miscellaneous meeting, which is the default meeting as it loads up. So as you can see, I could scroll through these and add any one of these. For example, if I click this one, it will load up on all screens looking at it. Hello. Now, this means that even if I wasn't on it, like if I was doing things on a different tab, if I go over, it will display. Additionally, you can switch between meetings. So I could go, for example, to demo folder, and as you note that it changes it for all things connected to this instance. If I go back, I will have a different set of meeting notes. All right. This will also let me save to my meeting notes and enter an image, test image, and then have that display now in my meeting notes. As you can see, test image displays there. And I can go on this one and upload test image. And once it loads in, it will display. Right, so another neat thing is that I can display images that I've saved to my meeting onto my personal notepad. See? And being different instances of the personal notepad, that means I can work on, edit, then save, even though I'm in my personal notepad, back to the meeting folder. I can save it. And you'll note here, I can now load up hello times 2. Allowing, and this meeting granularity will allows for a lot more greater degree of freedom. Okay, so that has been the showing how the different, oh, and I also could just click create meeting and it'll generate a random new meeting. That has been how it works physically. Let's go over a little bit how it works inside of the code. So the key thing is that there is a file called server.js, and this does most of the heavy lifting for the entire program. This line right here is defining the connection for the I/O, and all the individual clients will connect via the sockets, web sockets, right? On the connection, it emits the draw history, which is how when you connect to it, we're saving on the server the history of all the lines. And you can see the key thing to note: emits to a socket. On is the receiving. So if a socket were to emit to the server, this function, draw line, this would be called. It's like a callback, right? And so every time you draw, the clients emit draw line, and the canvas remembers the history, right? So some of the more particular things with the load canvas, for example, a client when you let me go over to the demo. The client, when they click meeting notes and then you click one of these two, it will emit the name, the ID really, of that file to the server via load canvas. Then it authorizes the Google credentials, which is done server side, no client necessary, and then calls this function inside the server with the file ID. And this function name is load multi-user canvas from drive. And if you go up to load multi-user canvas from drive, which is right here, it makes the Google Drive API call, which finds the file ID and returns a web content link, and we pass back to all. This is an IO.emit. It says for everybody connected to the IO, emit to them this function load canvas with this data, response.data web content link, which is basically a loading link. So if I go back up, and maybe let's go over to our client, which holds most of the code, and then I go to canvasclient.javascript, we'll note that we have also socket.ons. And so when it receives a socket.on, it calls our handler functions. And all our socket handler functions are prefaced with socket and clearly named. And so it calls this handler with the data we got and the context of the canvas. So let's go to our handler, which is socketfunctions.js, and let's look at socket load canvas. Right? And so this preps an image to be drawn. We have to pass it through a URL because to avoid a tainted canvas image. We then, something you might note if we look at if you note that little circle line, that's basically prevents, while it's up, you can't do any kind of like drawing or anything like that. So this adds that loading icon and prevents all default things from happening with clicks and canceling it. It then goes and fetches the data, and then once the fetch returns, it will then close that loading ID. And because of this draw image, which occurs on all the different instances, we now have a freshly displayed image, which is really neat. The meetings work similarly, but instead of fetching the file ID, we must fetch the folder ID, and then we fetch the folder ID and we change this because the server will have just one meeting ID. We change it for the server. We can change it for the server, and therefore, and when the meeting notes, like when you do the list meeting folders and the list files, it's all based off the meeting ID that's set. And the list meeting folders will list all the possible meeting IDs, so you can go through and look at them, and it dynamically updates. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. This has been the Interactive Meeting Space feature video for the Epic Meetings / multi-user canvas. All right. If you have any questions regarding this video tutorial, feel free to contact me at rp